Thank you, Governor Graham. And you might tilt it up even higher. So we have another dedicated public servant with us today. Lee Constantine is going to speak next. As we all know, Lee was a former state senator, and he has represented Florida as a public servant for 32 years. In 1978, he was elected the youngest person in the city of Altamont Springs history, serving as commissioner and mayor for 14 years. In 1992, he was elected to the Florida House of Representatives, where he served for 8 years. In 2000, he was elected to the Florida Senate, where he served until 2010, only ending his distinguished career due to term limits. At the time he left office, Senator Constantine was the longest-serving elected official in Florida. Last year, he was elected to the Seminole County Commission in District 3. Throughout his legislative career, Senator Constantine sponsored numerous groundbreaking bills focused on environmental protection. Some of the most notable included Save Our Everglades, Florida Forever Conservation Lands Program, the Wekiva Parkway and Protection Act. During his last term, Senator Constantine sponsored bills that protected Florida's water resources and springs. Recently, Senator Constantine was reappointed by the governor to serve his third term as chairman of the Wekiva River Basin Commission, honoring his commitment to protect the Wekiva River. Lee is also a lifetime member of the Friends of the Wekiva River, and he's been an outspoken champion of conservation issues in the Wekiva Basin for decades. And we've seen him at events like this on a dedicated basis throughout the years. I can tell you, I know that he has supported and led efforts that may not have been politically expedient for him at the time, but they have always been appreciated by us in the environmental community, and we believe that his perspective is really for the long term. And Lee, it's with great pleasure I ask you to speak to us today.
Wow. You know, when you follow Governor Graham, you really don't have much left to say. He says it all, and he says it so much better than anybody can. And today, I have the privilege of not only following him, but also Dr. Hunter, who I have had the privilege to work with on Florida's energy program. He was one of those that came to my aid when I was doing the Florida Energy Act, and when a lot of people thought that that was a waste of time, that we protect our natural resources and our energy. He was one of the first persons that came out and supported me. And now he is here today, and between him and the governor, there's not much left to say. So I, like many of you know, and many of you, most of you know me and have known me since I was in Altamont, I like to speak from the heart. The first thing I want to say is, as the governor said when Dee Dee introduced him, he wishes his mother had heard that. Well, my mother is here today and did hear what Jay just said, so I want to introduce my mother, Mary Ann. Also, her sister and dedicated environmentalist for as long as I can remember, and was one of those people that was very instrumental in getting me to be interested in the environment. Her sister, Aunt Betty, or Betty Shod. Good to see you, Aunt Betty. I'll tell you a quick story. Just before I decided to run for the county commission, I asked both of them what would they like to do, because knowing that they would have to be helping me a great deal in running, and they wanted to do one of their bucket lists. Now, I'm not going to tell you how old they are, but they, like me, are not young. And one of their bucket lists was they wanted to go to Costa Rica and do zip lining. And so I, with my cousin, my Aunt Betty's son, we took them down to Costa Rica, took them up to the highest mountain overlooking the Pacific Ocean, and thought, okay, let's see what happens. 14 lines later, one as long as 600 meters, the boys that were up there taking us down said, okay, now we take them down tandem because they're too old to go by themselves. They came down and they said, no way. And and my Aunt Betty was the oldest person ever to have done that particular zip line by herself. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here today to bring attention to something that I know you're all dedicated to already. The Wekiva River is symbolic of all, and the Wekiva Springs, of all the springs in Florida. And when you think about the iconic Silver Springs and how it is no longer silver, and you think about Rainbow Springs and all the other springs that are under such degradation and that we are forgetting as a state, forgetting as a government, how important these are to our culture, to our history, to our heritage. It just makes you very sad. But events like this bring attention to not only Wekiva Springs, but all of the springs in Florida, and say to those that have an opportunity to help, we can make a difference. It is important. We can change the course of what's happening. Now, I don't have to talk to you all about Wekiva Springs. You all love it. That's why we're here today. But I want to tell you, I grew up here. I grew up on Bear Lake Road, right in Seminole County. Do you know that before I-4, many of us couldn't get to the beach? My mother took me to San Orlando Springs. That's where I learned to swim. That's where she threw me in and said, if you don't come up, too bad. And we all know that that doesn't exist for the general public any longer. It's still there. It's part of the Wekiva, but it is not used for the public anymore. We can no longer, as citizens, lose any more of these natural treasures. No more. I am very proud to have served you in the legislature for 18 years. I am very proud to have served in Altamont Springs. In fact, the mayor of Altamont Springs and the former mayor of Altamont Springs are right here, Pat and Dudley Bates, and I served with them, and I'm very proud of them. I'm proud of friends like Katie and Russ Moncrief are right here in the front that for so many years have been the friends of the Wekiva, have been part of that, and have helped protect this river. The legislature needs this government, Florida, the citizens, those that are both born here and have come here to become citizens, need to understand the correlation, the relationship between the economics and the environmental integrity of Florida. It is no longer acceptable to think that we can regulate or eliminate regulation for the sake of economic development. The people of Florida intuitively, and our legislature needs to understand that the people that move, that growth is our economic indicator, and that people from Illinois and Pennsylvania and Massachusetts and Iowa do not move here because we have the best strip malls. They move here because of Florida, the idea of Florida, the beautiful natural resources of Florida. They want to come here and they want to live in a place that they dream about. And if the perception is that we don't care, then they won't come. And so when we talk about And the governor said this so succinctly yesterday at the editorial board of the Sentinel. You know, when you're dealing with private property, many times regulation is onerous. But when you're dealing with a public resource owned by the people of Florida, like our water and our streams and our rivers and our springs, it is a public asset. Not that regulation is bad, but it should be protected. It's not regulation, it's protection that we are doing. I love Florida. I know you all do too. And whether it's from Apalachicola to the Florida Bay, our water systems are all interconnected. And it was so nice to see that in this last week, the water management districts and the DEP is starting to come back to that realization and work with us on so many of these things. But it's you folks, you dedicated individuals that each and every day tell your friends, your neighbors, all of these organizations that are out there all the time trying to educate. It's you all that will win this battle. And you have to continue to understand that this is not a short-term thing. This is not going to be changed tomorrow. This is going to take a long time. Even if we started today with every single right policy, it's going to take a long time to build this back. But we will. We have to. For the sake of Florida's economic and environmental future, we have to. And most importantly, for our heritage. This is Florida's heritage. And we have the obligation and the responsibility to bring as much of what we knew, as we thought, as we saw, as we felt of Florida to those that follow us, to our children and to our grandchildren. I have the privilege today of introducing you to two, and I don't want to say new legislators, but freshman senator who was in the House and a freshman representative who worked with us in Orange County as a commissioner. They are now in the legislature, and they have picked up the mantle of environmental concerns, and more specifically of the springs of Florida. And I can tell them, being in that battle for many, many years, it's not easy. And people will misrepresent time and time again what you're doing and what you're saying for the sake of a few pennies. But I will tell you that I wish them all the best. Because remember, and people wonder sometimes about me and Bob Graham, Republican and Democrat. This is not a partisan issue, folks. This is an issue for Florida and for all Floridians. And so I am very proud. I am very proud to be a Republican, but be a Floridian first, and who cares about our natural resources. And these two individuals, Darren Soto, a new senator, and Linda Stewart, a new state rep, and the bill that they just filed this week. I want to bring them up. Let's give them a great hand, and let's thank them. Come on up here, Dan.